I'm Joyce Pellino Crane. I call myself the college essay confidante, so you remember me. But basically, I'm a journalist. I actually am the news director at Westford Community Access TV. We have Chelmsford Telemedia here tonight, video recording this session, so smile a lot. This is for rising seniors, and it's for students who are imminently about to write their essay. To my left is Troy Lazaro, and I want to get his title right, so I'm going to read it. He is the Senior Assistant Director of Multicultural Admissions at UMass Lowell. So if you have questions about admissions, he's your guy. He's going to talk after I lead you through a few exercises and we talk about the essay. So he will save your questions for the end. Okay, so welcome, Troy.
Thank you guys for coming.
He doesn't, I think he'll tell you that it doesn't matter what you write, but I'm a journalist, so it does. So for me, it matters, right?
Oh, it matters.
It matters?
It matters.
Okay. So I wrote so here's a little bit of my background. I dreamed of being a writer for the first 40 years of my life, and then by some strange happenstance, I started writing for the Boston Globe as a correspondent, and I loved it. It was the happiest period of my life. I did that for 10 years. I couldn't have been more in love with the work I was doing than I was at that time. And I just was able to make a difference. I was able to touch on social justice and other issues that, made a difference in this world. So it was gratifying. I just want to impart my love of writing to you. Just for this short little period of your life, during which you have to write the best essay of your life. So if I can impart a little bit of that love to you for this period of your life, you will write a very compelling story. And hopefully an admissions officer will remember you. There are four seats up here in the front here, if you'd like to come up here. Can't be shy. Okay, so I'm going to go through my little slideshow first, because I don't know, how many of you have seen the prompts for the Common App? Do you all know about the prompts? So the Common App is where you should go, commonapp.org, I think it is, APP, and check out the prompts and read about the essay so that you know what is expected of you. But we're going to go through them right now. I have here, find your truth. And what I mean by that is your story, the story of you today, is compelling. Trust me. You might think you lead a boring life or a mundane life, but it is not. And all you have to do, which is not easy to do, is find who you are, who your truth is. Okay, so basics. How long? Do you all know how long how many words you have? Is this a surprise to anybody? 650 words maximum. That means you've got to do it. In journalism, we say it's harder to write short than long. You really need to be organized. You need to know how to start your essay, and that's what I really am going to focus on tonight. I'm going to help you know how to start that essay, because once you start it, the rest is a little easier if you know where to begin. Oh, and yeah, no shorter than 250 words. So if you're very brief and you're very good at writing, go for it. But most of my students, I do private tutoring for the college essay. Almost every one of my students, in fact, all of them, have written at least a 500-word essay, and most of them go to the 650. So there are 7 prompts now. There used to be 5, but last year they increased them. Or was it 2 years ago? I'm not sure. Prompt 1. I'm going to go around the room and ask you guys to read. Would you read prompt 1?
A story central to your identity.
Okay. So a story central to your identity. It's kind of self-explanatory, but if you have a question, ask. Prompt 2. Want to read it?
Sure. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience?
I'm just going to repeat it for the cameras. So recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from the experience? How many of you have something like that in your life that you can think of? Good. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I've failed a lot at a lot of things. So don't be afraid to write about that. It's more about, did you mature from that experience? Prompt 3. Want to read it? Would you read it?
Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome?
Reflect on a time when you challenged or questioned a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? That's a high-level essay to write. You have to do research. I don't always recommend it, but if you want to go that way, I'll go there with you if you want to. But it does take more work. Do you want to read the next one?
Sure. Describe a problem you solved or a problem you'd like to solve. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution.
Describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. Does this resonate? Does this one resonate with anybody? Nobody? Okay. Prompt 5. Who hasn't read? Oh, here you go. You're caught.
Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others.
Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. Has anybody had that happen to them? Okay, well, you have to think. You're going to put your thinking caps on tonight.
Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. What does it captivate you? Why does it captivate?
Good. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? For me, it's writing. I don't care what time it is when I'm engrossed in writing a story. Hours go by and I'm still writing. It's like flying a plane for me. So if you have that experience or can have that experience, it's a very gratifying, wonderful experience. I think this is the last one. Who is my victim? Who wants to read it? Would you like to read it?
Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design.
Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So what they're really saying is these prompts are just guidance. You don't have to follow them precisely. I don't recommend using an essay that you've used before, but maybe Troy will say something different on that. So I want to just go quickly over what the 3 types of essays are. There's the narrative, which means, this is my favorite kind of writing. You bring the person right into the room with you and describe what you're seeing. Make them know what you see and what you're feeling. Use all of your senses: sight, sound, smell, what are the rest? Touch, taste. Focus. So describe an experience or tells a story, focuses on a person, place, or thing. That's narrative writing. That's sort of, when they talk about the personal statement, that's pretty much what they're talking about, the narrative. Persuasive. This is something where if you're really passionate about a topic and you really, really, really want to write your essay on to persuade, you have that option. You can do it. But again, I just got to tell you, from a journalistic point of view, you've got to really do your research. And you also have to present both sides. So you have to research the other side of the coin as well, and be very thorough. Expository, tell how to do something. Explain a technology, compare two similar subjects, discuss a historical event. A couple of years ago, I had a student in one of my workshops, and he was on his way to become, I think he might have switched his major, but at that time he wanted to become an engineer. And he wrote the best essay about a project that he was doing with two other students. They'd been assigned to each other. It was a group, they didn't know each other. And he had this very negative impression of both of his partners. It was another boy, another young man, and a young woman. And he didn't think very highly of them. He thought they were going to lose, not succeed at their project. It was time-based. And he showed the progression of how he began to think differently about his companions as time went on, and they actually succeeded. They were very successful in completing the project. In his essay, he explained the technology, and he talked about what the thought process that he had to go through to complete the project. So he showed his ability, his technical ability, very craftily in that essay, without talking about without coming right out and saying, I'm really good technically. He didn't say that. He showed it. Do your teachers, I hope your English teachers tell you this. If they don't, I'll tell you, use action verbs. That makes your story much stronger. Glimpsed, taunted, voiced, jogged. Can anybody think of some other action verbs really quick? Raise your hand. Somebody in here is a good writer, right? Somebody knows what I'm talking about.
Postulated?
Oh, I don't even know what that means. That's a big word. That's great. Yes, postulated is one. Anybody else think of another one? Use them when you're writing, because you don't need adjectives or many adverbs when you're trying to save space. You only have 650 words, remember. So those action verbs are really, really important. They strengthen your story. I could spend a whole hour on just action verbs. I love that whole process of looking. Use your thesaurus. I do that all the time. I'm always going to thesaurus.com and looking for a better word. Edit, revise, edit, revise, edit, revise. It's in the editing process that your essay will become stronger and better as you get to be more involved and integrated with it, and you know where you want to go. So don't be afraid to have to edit it, and give yourself enough time that when you write it, you have the time to edit it, which means write it this summer before you're in school. And I'm going to say that a lot tonight. Use words sparingly. In other words, omit the unnecessary ones. That's what comes in the editing process. A little secret. So I have little things that I do when I'm writing. Sometimes I just pretend that I'm hovering over the paper. That the blank page gives writers a lot of anxiety, because you think to yourself, I'll never fill this, I'll never write it well enough, I'm scared to write this. But if you can just hover over, pretend that you're a helicopter hovering over the page, and you see it from this aerial point of view, somehow it becomes more manageable, because then you see the big picture and you know where you want to go. That's what works for me. If there's something that works better for you, use your techniques. Glimpse the big picture, put your story in context. We're going to talk about context a little more. Think about the geography of the situation. the type of land, narrow, I don't know what I mean by then, narrow in on the topic. I don't know what I meant by that. But we'll talk about context a little more in a minute. Who's prepared to answer this question? What is your strongest, most unwavering personality trait? Anybody want to share? Someone said to me before, perseverance, which I think is an amazingly wonderful trait. Anybody else?
Thoughtful.
He said thoughtful. That is a wonderful trait because that means probably you have a lot of kindness and people will be attracted to you for that. Anybody else? Well, I hope it's a positive one, whatever it is. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about this. I'm going to stay on it for about 2 minutes. This is my graphic representation of what a story looks like. I've kind of adapted it from other people's ideas. See this down here where the ruler is? I say start with a hook. A hook is your lead or your opening sentence. Try to make it something that makes the reader want to keep reading more. Include your facts, and even in a personal statement, you're going to have facts. You might, describe your personality traits, like we just discussed a minute ago, or some facts about when you went on a trip, the dates, the years, that sort of thing. And the people who are going to be able to fill you in on the details are probably your family members, your mother, your father, your brother, sister. You might have to do some research by interviewing them. Add tension. So tension in a scary movie is when you know that the shark is about to jump and attack someone, and the scary music. That is not what I mean precisely here. What I mean by add tension is add a line that arouses curiosity in your reader and makes them want to find out what you mean by that line, so that you resolve it by the end of the essay. Put it into context. So if we were going to put where we are tonight in context geographically, what would you say? Where is the Chelmsford Library located? Yeah, well, what road is it on? Boston Road.
Boston Road.
I cheated. I told him. It's on Boston Road. It's sitting in the middle of this kind of strange island that most downtowns don't have, but Chelmsford does. And what else is it? What else could you say about it? Anybody have any thoughts about the Chelmsford Public Library and its location? Okay. I'm walking down this way.
It's across from Dunkin' Donuts.
Ah, it's across from Dunkin' Donuts. Not to mention Andiamo and Novo, 2 really good restaurants, right? Thank you. So that does put things in context. So think about that. Think about how you can do that. If you were, we might actually do this exercise in a little while, but if you were to describe your bedroom, where in the house is it located? What do you see when you look out the window? So you put it in context, and then you just tell your story. Tell it as best you can. Trust that the story is interesting. It will be. And then don't force this, but find a powerful ending. If you're thinking subconsciously about your essay, if you're engaged in that essay well enough, your brain is going to be working towards that ending even when you're not realizing it. So you could be riding your bicycle down the Freeman Rail Trail, and the ending could come to you serendipitously. And you'll know it. You'll know it when you get there, that you found the powerful ending that you want. Okay, so who has the handouts? Because we're going to go through them. So it's called Your Life in Pieces. Somebody has their hand up? Yeah.
I don't have a handout.
So we only had 20, I just have to explain to you that we only had 20 people register according to the library. And I calculate that there's about 100 of you in here. So we only had 20 copies made because I didn't know that I was going to have so many of you here. But I have it in my computer, and if you email me, do you all have something to write with? I'm going to give you my email right now. I will send it. If you email me, I will send you the handout. Okay? Here is my email. Are you ready? winningcollegeessay@gmail.com. WINNING college essay. So there are 2 E's in a row. COLLEGE ESSAY @gmail.com. Oh, this isn't going to work. I guess I have to do this. So in the handout, what I have are sample openings of essays. And what I'd like is to have someone take the microphone from me and read me the first opening paragraph. And who's brave enough to do that? Okay. What's your name?
Ganesh.
Okay, Ganesh. Are you a rising senior?
Yes.
Okay. Go for it.
I still taste the bread, the golden crust with its light dusting of powdery flour, the soft insides that contrast so well with the rough exterior, the individual aroma of a baguette fresh from the boulangerie that Wonder Bread can never begin to emulate. Every time I optimistically tear into the next bread my mother brings home, I am always disappointed. It never has that uniquely appetizing smell I cherished as a child in Sevrier, France.
Thank you, Ganesh. What do we know about this person right off?
This person grew up in France.
This person grew up in France. Yes, that's right. What else do we know? Where is she now? Anybody else know besides?
The U.S.
How do you know the U.S.?
The line, the individual aroma of a baguette fresh from boulangerie that Wonder Bread can never begin to emulate.
And everybody know what Wonder Bread is? Because it's kind of old-fashioned now, so I don't know if everybody knows. But you knew. Did you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So she's telling you a lot in a very very few words. This essay, the length of it was exactly 650 words. She got it right down to the wire. My question to you is, would you keep reading this essay? Why?
You have conflict within the first few lines itself, and you're compelled to see the resolution of it.
She said you have conflict in the first 3 lines, did you say?
Few lines.
In the first few lines, and you're compelled to keep reading. Okay, how about the next one? Who would like to read it? Come on, I'm hoarse. I might lose my voice. Somebody has to help me out. Okay, we've got someone.
I slowly pushed down on the clutch of the battered and beat-up truck, patiently listening for the engine to bite so that I could move the vehicle forward. On the seat next to me, my instructor calmly encouraged me, speaking with the soft British lilt to which I had grown accustomed over the summer. "Wait for it," he said, "wait for it," elongating the first word of each sentence to stress its importance and delivering his directions in a cadence that was, by now, both foreign and familiar to me.
Thank you. What's your name?
Sonia.
Thank you, Sonia. So, In both of these essays, did you notice the action verbs? Listening, speaking, elongating. He uses the word cadence, which is a very nice, interesting word. Like, words are what make a story interesting. So keep that in mind when you decide to start writing. Who here, I would like to, okay, we're going to read one more and then we're going to do an exercise. Okay, this one is a before and after. So the before paragraph is what the student wrote, and then I had her in a free workshop that I gave to the Chelmsford community, and after the workshop, she wrote the second part, and I'll read it real quick to you both so that we get through it. When I was in the 7th grade, my father passed away from lung cancer. I have never experienced such a horrible aching pain before. I felt it was like I was shot in the heart. It's crazy to think that the last time I talked to him was in a hospital room with loud beeps from the heart monitors screaming in my ears. No one deserves to suffer. I am just happy he's in a better place now. That is really a very well-written opening essay, and I liked it very much, but I thought that she could actually improve it. And she did. When I was 12, I wrote and delivered a eulogy at my father's funeral. Whoa. Can you imagine being 12 years old and doing that? I remember standing at the podium of the church in front of all the grief-stricken and depressed faces of my friends and family. Silence slithered its way down the aisle as the crowd took their seats. The moment I started reading was when I realized I was doing the right thing and that Daddy would be proud of me. You can do it, he would always tell me when I was struggling. Those words replayed in my head like a broken record. So do you have a sense of what I'm saying here about how to start your essay? There are several more examples in your handout. But right now, I would like it if you would write something. So I want you to, if you don't have your phones with you, just try to recall the last picture you took of a person. And then write, you can list things about that person and describe that person to me. You could list them or write it in a paragraph format, but try to use your action verbs. Remember action verbs. So tell us what this person does. Think of him in motion, or her, or they. We only have a couple of minutes to do this, so write fast, but write well. All right, so we'll find out who the fast writers are. Who's ready to read something? I've got you. At least you're not shy. What's your first name again?
Megan.
Megan. So Megan is going to read for us.
There was something about her that radiated, a personal sun in her eyes that let the warmth and sweetness pour out and illuminate the world. Lips pulled into an encouraging smile, tongue that prose rolled off of effortlessly. She was ephemeral and yet real. Right there, holding my hand, whispering that I should look at the camera better.
Beautiful. A lot of language. Can I read that out loud, a little bit of it? There was something about her that radiated, a personal sun in her eyes that lit the warmth and sweetness, that let the warmth and sweetness pour out and illuminate the world. Lips pulled into an encouraging smile, tongue that prose rolled off of effortlessly. She was ephemeral and yet real, right there holding my hand, whispering that I should look at the camera. So now I want to know who she is. That has raised curiosity in me. So where would you go next with this?
Sure.
Well, we can talk about that. Anybody else want to read something nice that you just wrote? I'm going to pick someone if you don't raise your hand, so. So one thing though, if you don't want to read it, all you have to do is tell me. But I might ask you. You can say no. But I hope someone says yes. Someone over up here? Is someone up here willing? Over here? I know this is hard in a big group, but you're helping everybody else when you do it.
I don't think I did the same thing, like describing specific.
Okay, but wait, let me come around that way. So, whatever you did is fine. Tell us your first name first.
Asta?
Asta?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
When they said that you never know what something was worth until it was gone, they were right. I did not expect to shed a tear at my cousin's graduation party, but when their mother took the stage and delivered a speech with salty tears rolling down her cheeks, I broke down. It was all real now. The girl who I had grown up with was leaving, and though she was a phone call away, I knew it would never be the same.
Oh, so we don't know what happened there.
No.
That's interesting. Let me just read it a little out for the camera. What they said that you never know, when they said that you never know what something was worth until it's gone, they were right. I did not expect to shed, action verb, a tear at my cousin's graduation party, but when his mother took the stage and delivered a speech with salty tears rolling down her cheeks, I broke down. It was all real now. The girl who I had grown up with was leaving, and though she was a phone call away, I knew it would never be the same. I remember when my older sister left for college, and it was never the same. I know. It's a loss. Anybody else? One more? Just one more? Okay, we're going to do one more before and after. Okay, so the before, this was written by someone who is currently in law school. Ever since second grade, but this was for her undergraduate. Ever since second grade, I have been trying to prepare myself to be a lawyer. Whenever there was a fight on the playground or bus, I would agree to be someone's lawyer and represent them against the opposing party. One of my best clients was a girl from my bus who got in trouble often. Each time the bus drivers reprimanded her, I would defend her. From an early age, I have been an avid Judge Judy watcher. Judge Judy taught me about hearsay and the importance of being honest in court. Well, that paragraph is sort of all over the place. There's no focus. And I don't know that I would continue reading it. But this second one, the after, is a little more interesting. The girl on the bus was my best client. So how do you know right away that she wants to be a lawyer? What's the word? Exactly. Whenever the driver reprimanded her, I would step up to her defense. That's me, defender of the weak or the clueless. So she craftily just told someone a lot about herself. Ever since second grade, I've been preparing myself to be a lawyer. Whenever there was a fight on the playground or bus, I would agree to represent one party to the other. I learned what to do by watching courtroom TV. From an early age, I've been an avid Judge Judy fan. Judge Judy taught me about hearsay and the importance of honesty in court, and then she went on. So can you see the difference in the before and after? Does that help? Okay. I think right now I'm going to take a little break and let Troy speak with you. He, as I said, he's an admissions officer, and he knows all the answers to many of your questions.
How's everybody doing? You sure? I gotta feel some life in here. How's everybody doing? Good. Good, good. I'm Troy Lazaro. I'm the Assistant Director of Multicultural Recruitment at UMass Lowell. Been working there going on 10 years now. It's been a great experience. And I know all you guys are here because college is around the corner, right? How do we feel about that? How does that make you feel? Nervous? Excited? Scared? Some even numb a little bit. I remember. I was there not too long ago. So I completely remember the feeling. Now, what I will tell you is that writing, as far as putting yourself on page, is always important. It's always important. I say that because that's what I graduated from Merrimack College as an English major. I was a spoken word poet for many years. Went out in New York City at the New Yorican Poets Cafe in New York. Out here in Boston as well. Went out here in Boston and also had my own spoken word group that went throughout the whole United States. So I know how important writing is. So anytime that you take a pen and put it to paper, you're building a legacy. No matter what you're writing, you're building a legacy. So whether you're writing a college essay, whether you're writing a short story, or whether you're writing some form of legal document, it all matters because it's a legacy. That's how you continue your life, even beyond your physical life, is what you write down, the words that you write down. So it's very important, no matter what you do, that you always make sure that you represent yourself on paper very well. Now, with that being said, no pressure whatsoever, no pressure. As far as college admission is concerned, it's different at every college that you go to. UMass Lowell State College, there's other, like the college that I went to was a private college. So they all have different aspects of how we go about accepting, denying, deferring students into college. But for the most part, every college is going to have an essay, right? Every college is going to ask you to write an essay. Either they're going to have you write a general body essay, or they're going to have you write an essay for what we call test optional, because that's the thing now. The SAT no longer has the same amount of power that it used to have. So there's going to be essays, there's going to be writing. So what I would say is your essay for many parts of your application may or may not get you into the college that you're looking at. It may or may not be as important depending on what college you're going to. For instance, at UMass Lowell, the number one thing for us is your GPA, right? Because your GPA is what shows us how well you're going to do once you get into this university. So that's number one for us. After that would be any of your test scores if you so choose to submit them. However, what I will tell you is that that essay for students that might be on the borderline, a student that I might read an application and see a GPA that's not quite where I want it to be, I could say yes, I could say no. The essay becomes very important because now I'm beginning to look at you and say, give me a reason. Because right now, there's a portion of this essay, this application that says no. Show me why I should take a risk on you because you're borderline. Tell me why there might have been a borderline situation where you didn't achieve the goal that you wanted to achieve academically. Tell me why. Tell me why that's going to change. And that's where your essay will come into play for us at UMass Lowell. It definitely is a good representation of who you are. And anytime you represent yourself, whether it be in paper form or an interview, you want to put all of your best into it. So that's why I would say this is very important today, because it's going to help you be able to do a written interview. That's basically what your essays are when you go off to college. They're your written interview. We get to see and expect who's on paper to come to this school and represent the school as well as they represented themselves on paper. So that's the importance. So if you guys have any questions related to college admissions, whether it be UMass Lowell, wherever it might be, please ask, and I will gladly be able to give you the information that I have.
I personally plan on going in. So I personally want to go into computer science as a field, but I am a proficient writer, and I feel I could write a stronger college essay if it had something to do with my abilities as a writer. would that disadvantage me in any way?
No, it doesn't. Not at all. Because we're all different parts. We're all made out of different goods, right? There's a lot of different things that we do. None of us in here just does one thing well. There's a lot of things that we do well. So it's great that you're a proficient writer. Because a lot of people think that, oh, if you're going to be an engineer, if you're going to be a tech person, who cares if you can represent yourself on paper? No, it matters. It definitely matters. So yeah, if you have a great essay, and if you want to write about how writing is key to you, then go right on ahead and do it. My personal experience, for me going to college, I had a learning disability growing up, right? And they told me that I would never learn how to read or write. So I was always afraid of writing. And then I ended up becoming an awesome writer. Although what I went to school for was communications outside of the writing piece. I wanted to go into music, ended up becoming a teacher, but I wanted to go into music. So there was a lot of different things I did well, but it all came through the catalyst of me being able to write. So thank God that I was able to get the help, that I was able to persevere through by the writing, of which people said that I would never learn how to do, and I became a great writer at that. So yes, show that talent. It's another piece to add to the plate.
Has there ever been anyone you would have accepted into college, but then you saw their...
Can you repeat that?
Has there ever been anyone you would have accepted into the college, but then you saw their college essay was really bad and then decided not to accept them? Is that something that happens?
Yes and no.
The question is, has he been on the verge of accepting someone and then saw the college essay and didn't, and maybe it brought down the possibility of admitting this person because the college essay was not that good?
So the answer to that is yes and no. No, if a student has a 4.0 or a strong GPA, 3.5, something like that, that fits what we're looking for, probably not. And a strong SAT score, probably not. However, there has been a time where we had a student who had only been in the country a few years, and they had a great GPA. However, they had a lot of ESL courses, and we don't necessarily at UMass Lowell have a ESL ready program, English second language program. So we did not know whether or not, based off of GPA, we could accept this student. Based off of GPA, everything looked great. But then when we saw the essay, we saw that the student didn't quite have a mastery of the English language enough for the student to be able to be successful at the college level. So that gave me an indicator as to what would be best for that student, which was for the student to be able to go to a community college or to be able to have extra tutoring to be able to grasp the English language. Because once you're in college, reading and writing is going to be a major aspect of your success. So that was the only time in which we deferred a student based off of the fact of their grasp of the English language rather than it being a GPA only equivalent. And that's only due to the fact that the student didn't have 4 years of college prep or higher English level courses in high school, and then it manifested itself in the essay. That's the only time. Other than that, at UMass Lowell, if your GPA is where it needs to be and your SAT score is where it needs to be, that's fine. However, here's another caveat. If you're coming in as a test optional student for UMass Lowell, currently your GPA and your test optional essay actually has to be good.
Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, I'm going to choose somebody who hasn't asked a question yet. Thanks, Megan.
How long do you usually have to read the college essay? Like on average, how much time would you have to read the essay that you write?
You mean as an admissions officer?
Admission officer.
So you're asking, as an admissions officer, how much time does he have per essay?
Yeah.
And how many, I guess how many do you get, too?
I mean, any admissions counselor, and I say counselor, I don't like to use the word officer because that sounds scary, right? Like somebody's going to jail or something like that. We're counselors. We help you be able to get to your dream, right? It's not something that we like to do to turn people away or deny people. We help you get to your dream. So I would say counselor. So as far as that goes, you don't have all the time in the world, but you do have enough time to grasp an understanding of who the student is after we go through it. So we read anywhere from, at least at UMass Lowell, since our school is around about 12,000 students, we read anywhere from about 700 to 1,000 applications per counselor. So it is a time crunch, but at the same time, we do give each student their due, especially when it comes to reading their application from soup to nuts.
So along that line, how important is that first paragraph?
It all depends. Once again, it all goes back to what I'm seeing prior to the paragraph, prior to the essay, right? Because the things that I'm going to see prior to the essay are your GPA and all of the other information in SAT score. If a student is coming in and they really need that essay to help push along, that first paragraph is going to be key. Because if I've read for the day 85 applications, and now I'm on 86, and this is a student that really needs that essay to hammer it home to get them in, and you come off bland, it's going to be really hard for me to fight for you when I have to sit in front of the rest of my peers and say, this is why that student is going here. Because the essay didn't catch me in the beginning, it waited too long to the end, and I didn't feel why this student should be here, right? I didn't get the grasp, I didn't get the weight of why this student is going to be a great leader and show me the opposite of what they showed me as far as their GPA is concerned. So yes, in writing in general, your catch is going to be good. It has to be good.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Who else has a question? Somebody in the back before had one.
Between different colleges and different majors, does it matter which prompt you use from the Common App, or are they all pretty much equivalent?
So the question is, does it matter which prompt you write your essay to?
No, it matters to you, right? That's a you thing. So it's whatever prompt comes up that's more connecting with you, that's going to pull more passion, it's going to pull more connection, it's going to pull more truth, like you were saying. Whichever prompt you choose, it has to be you. It has to be who you are, because when we read these, we know if somebody is recreating a life of their mom or their grandfather, because it doesn't sound real, right? But when you choose a prompt, you want to make sure you choose a prompt that's going to be real to you, so that it becomes real to the reader. So whatever it is, that's completely your choice. It's just that you definitely want to make it real and you want to make it your own.
Okay, who's next? I will get to you.
So someone told me that if my SAT scores are like horrible, then my essay like doesn't matter at all. Is that true?
So you're saying that someone told you that the essay doesn't matter if you have terrible SAT scores?
Yeah.
Matter in the sense that it's not going to hurt you or help you?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Let's see what Troy has to say.
So at UMass Lowell, no, that's not gonna be a problem, because you have an opportunity to say, look, these SAT scores are not me, but my GPA is me. So I'm gonna choose test option, right? So now for us, for UMass Lowell, you don't have to worry about that SAT piece. Now you gotta focus back on the essay piece, right? Because we're gonna ask you, now that you've chosen to do SAT optional, and for us not to look at your SAT scores, now we're gonna look at what you write in your supplemental essay, and that takes place of your SAT. So for us, nah, that's not gonna hurt you. Might hurt you for another school that doesn't have test optional. If he doesn't have test optional and those SAT scores aren't strong, then yeah, it's not even, that essay is not gonna win you the day. But if you're at a school that has test optional, that essay could win you today.
So is that happening more and more where the tests are optional now?
Yes.
Oh, how interesting. So, and UMass Lowell is one of them?
UMass Lowell is one of them. To be honest with you, a lot of private schools have always been test optional, right? Because private schools kind of have their own rubric of how they select a student into their school. So for private schools, the test scores haven't always meant everything. For state schools, they have, because the test scores are the way we compete against each other, but we're changing that pattern now. that test really does not show us how good of a student you are, how good of a leader you are, how well you represent the school. And they've known that for years, but now they're recognizing it. So UMass Lowell and a few other schools are, well, actually the wave, UMass Lowell and a wave of other schools are beginning to turn their eyes away from the SAT and more onto the student.
Wow, that's good news for people who don't take tests well and are really talented. So, other people had their hands up?
Which is more valuable, the content of the essay or the style in which the person writes?
Which is more preferable, did you say?
Or like valuable?
Which is more valuable, the
content?
The content of the essay or the
style?
Or the style of writing?
That is all based on you. For instance, if I'm a race car driver, I need a race car, right? And I need to be really good with that race car. So that tool is gonna help me be able to get to my goal. If I'm a person that's going back and forth to work, I need a reliable car every day, right? A race car is not gonna work for me. So the same thing it is with your writing. If you're a descriptive writer and that works for you and that gets out the best of you, write a descriptive essay. If you're more of a short story writer or a factual writer, more of a direct journalist style, and that style is going to get the best out of you, that when I read it, I can feel those pieces, then that's the tool that you want to use. So it's all about the tools that you have and which tools work best for you is the way you want to write your essay. I would never tell somebody to write an essay outside of their actual talents or their actual strength, because that, no matter what the heart is in it, will never be able to feel it because it's not the actual talent that you're putting on the paper. You're putting some other type of talent on paper, and we can see that quickly.
Know your truth. Before I forget, who's got the sign-in sheet? No? Is it on the table there? Thank you. Who else has a question? Oh, Megan, you had a question.
What traits do college admission counselors look for in an essay? What traits would be more preferable?
Megan is asking, what traits do admissions counselors look for in the essay? And also, what's the best way to tell that story?
So for one, going off your question, it's going to relate back to the prompt that you choose, right? The prompt that you choose is going to be the realm in which you bring forth who you are, right? You don't want to choose a prompt that doesn't fit you, because if you choose the wrong prompt, I'll never be able to see those exact traits. So the traits that you have, like you said, knowing your truth, before you put the pen to the paper, think about it. Think about who you are. Think about what got you to this point. And then look for the specific prompt that asks you to put those pieces on the paper so that you can put forth all your traits. Obviously, leadership traits are great, but that doesn't mean that every person in here has to be your traditional leader. Sometimes, if you're a good follower that follows the right direction, a good soldier, so to speak, that moves forth a whole mission, a whole progress, a whole group, then that's great too. But make sure you choose the right prompt that brings that soldier, that follower, that worker out. And if you're that leader, make sure you choose that prompt that shows your leadership skill and your devotion to service in that prompt.
Who else? Oh, okay. Coming down.
Do extracurriculars and accomplishments come after the essay? Do you look at that after you look at the essay or before? Or before you look at GPA and stuff?
That's a good question. Do you look at the extracurriculars before or after GPA and the other things?
So the way the Common App lays out, the essay is typically in the middle. It's in, I get all of your upfront information, where you're from, who you are, your GPA and stuff. Your actual transcript is at the end. It's typically the last thing that I see. So I'll see your general information, I will see your essay, then I will also see your, your activities and things like that listed. Then I'm gonna see your GPA, then I'm gonna see your SAT score. So that's typically how the Common App opens up, just the way it's put together. But correlating it back to the essay, a lot of the times your extracurricular activities can be things that you write about, right? So I get this a lot of time from a lot of different counselors that I work with or counselors that I come in contact with. Oh, here we go, another football essay, another soccer essay, another hockey essay, another baseball essay. And I get frustrated when they start saying that, right? Because you know what? I played sports. And sports meant something to me more than just the play on the field. It was a complete passion. It was a part of who I was. It helped me express myself. When I was feeling down about the struggles that I was having as a student who had a learning disability, I was able to express it on the football field almost like a ballerina would, right? So being able to put that into my writing, which was my extracurricular activity, was amazing because it gave me that passion that we were talking about earlier. To write an essay that was just outstanding, right? So those things can fold into your essay. Your superlatives or your extracurricular activities can fold into your essay because at the end of the day, it's you. So if you want to write about baseball, football, whatever sport you do, or whatever type of sport or extracurricular activity, you do it. And don't worry about the cliche. You're not cliche, right? Write it true. Write your experience. Because everybody's experience in these different things is different. So if it brings the best out of you, put it in there. But just make it unique, make it you.
That's really interesting, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions for Troy? We've been here about an hour. We have the room for another half hour, but I don't want to keep you if it's too long a stay. We can continue asking a few more questions for Troy. This was your moment. Nobody? Okay. And we can do another exercise, writing exercise. Would anybody like to do another writing exercise? Megan does. Anybody? Okay, so you know what I want to do? I have a sample essay that actually is at the end of your packets. Troy, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. So thank you guys. Thank you for having me. I'm going to give you my email address, so if you have any questions, if you want to ask me other questions about UMass Lowell specifically, or if you just want some other tips on just how to apply to colleges and what college, what are my thoughts on a certain college and things like that, please do. My email is Troy, Troy, _ Lazaro, Lazaro, and that's at uml.edu, at uml.edu. So Troy, Troy, _ Lazaro, Lazaro, at uml.edu. Guys, thank you very much. Don't stress this. Make this be as enjoyable as possible, and you guys will be just fine.
Thank you so much, Troy. Really, it's amazing that he comes and does this for me every so often, because how many admissions officers do you meet in life? So at the right time of your life, you get access to that and how lucky you are. So I have this sample essay that if you do have the handout, you can turn to the back page. Bye, Troy. Thank you again. I don't have it for the screen, so, but we are going to read it out loud together. I actually wanted to also show you this before we get to the essay. I had a young woman from Andover come. I was tutoring her to help her write the college essay, and she showed up one day for the appointment. And what I do when I'm when I have a small group, is I have some Play-Doh and I have some crayons and I have some paper, and I ask the students to draw a picture of themselves. And the reason why I do that is to get you to think about yourself. This is a time in your life. This is the one time in your life when it's good to be selfish and only think about yourself in writing the essay, because you really want to know yourself. You really want to know your truth. So I asked her to draw a picture of herself, and this is she took the actual picture, but I replicated what she drew. On one side, she drew herself with lipstick and eyeshadow and mascara and lots of makeup. Can you all see? And then on the other side, she drew herself without any makeup, just natural. And I said, well, what's this all about? She said, well, I have a group of friends in Andover, and they're very, what's the word? They're very status-minded, and you have to look really good. And so I wear makeup when I'm in Andover. But when I go to see my friends in Reading, the friends that I grew up with, I'm just myself. I don't wear any makeup. And then she wrote her essay about that. And it really, a lot of times it takes about 2 to 3 sessions or 3 to 4 sessions for a student to finish an essay with me. She did this in 2 sessions. She just knew herself so well. And she had such a very good story idea. So I wanted to share that with you, because when you go home, think about yourself and your physical image and try to use a crayon, use a pen, whatever, a pencil, draw yourself. Think about who you are. Think of the physical self and the inner self. So, who has the handout? Raise your hand. Because I actually don't even have one here. I think we've given them all out. You have one. So would you read the first paragraphs?
Yeah, sure. I slammed on the brakes in hope of stopping before I hit the car. However, it was too late. I rear-ended it. The middle-aged woman jumped out of her car and started to yell at me for being an irresponsible driver.
Let's read the sentence after that.
How could you be so unaware, she said.
So this is an essay that I feel is really pretty perfect for a college admission essay. The reason why is because it's a very simple anecdote that has a beginning, middle, and end, and it shows maturation. When we get to the end, you'll see what I mean by maturation, that the person who wrote it learned a lesson, basically, and understood something that he didn't understand prior to this accident. And and the other reason why it's a very good essay is because it can be written very well in 650 words. So if you think about your life, think about anecdotes from your life, and think about how you can turn that into an essay. Who else would like to read? Who would like to read the next paragraph? My voice is hoarse. I need help. Someone here?
I had only been driving for 4 months, and I was still learning the rules of the road. As I turned the corner onto Depot Street, I saw the mail truck enter the road in front of the woman's car. I saw the truck stop at a house on the road and assumed the woman would slow down and pass the truck. Instead, she came to a full stop, and I did not have time to stop before impact. The front of my car was severely damaged. The headlight glass was shattered, the bumper was heavily damaged, and the hood was scrunched against my windshield. The car was ruined.
Thank you, Ganesh. Who's next? You'll all get to go home sooner if you read for me. I was so in shock.
I was so in shock that I could barely comprehend what she was saying. Remembering what I learned from driver's education, I called the police and they were on the scene within a few minutes. Next, I called my mom to let her know what happened and that I was okay.
Where did we end? Oh, okay, good. There's another paragraph. Oops, I think I just knocked your water over. Oh, thank you. Was it I was afraid? Yep.
I was afraid to face her. She had put her trust in me, and I had just gotten into an accident. I didn't yet fully understand the responsibility I had behind the wheel. However, my mom was forgiving and focused on making sure I was doing the right things and everyone was unharmed. I talked to the police officer and he asked me if I was speeding and whether or not I was on my cell phone, both of which I answered no. However, in the state of Massachusetts, a driver is at fault if he rear-ends another driver, so I took responsibility. As I saw my car being towed away, the repercussions of what had just happened overcame me.
Thank you. Anybody? Somebody? I have a hoarse voice. Yes? I could tell you were feeling sympathetic towards me. Hold on, I'm coming over. What's your first name?
I'm Dylan.
Dylan. It's the first one on the back page. Yeah.
I had gotten my license in January 2016 when I was a sophomore. At the time, this was my greatest accomplishment. I felt a tremendous amount of pride, joy, and a new sense of freedom. Receiving a license is the first step into living an independent life. All the adults in my life kept reminding me that it was a privilege, not a right. However, I didn't take their advice seriously. For the first few months of driving, I was carefree. I felt invincible. I ignored any cautions and warnings and took many unnecessary risks while driving. I felt like I was on top of the world and that nothing could stop me. I never imagined that my life would change in an instant.
Thank you, Dylan. So he knows his truth here. He's being honest. He was not taking driving very seriously, and he was doing some careless things with his car. That's a very honest portrayal, and that is very interesting to read. Okay, so we have 2 more paragraphs. Who will read the next one? This feels like pulling teeth, guys. Come on. Where are you? Yes?
I can do it.
Thank you. It's as I sat in the passenger seat.
As I sat in the passenger seat of my mom's car on that May afternoon, I was thinking about what had just happened. In an instant, my perception of life shattered. It was at this moment I suddenly understood the responsibility of driving. I took it for granted. I started to think of all the other opportunities with which I was blessed. My healthy family life, my stable relationships, bountiful social opportunities, and the opportunity for higher education. I never truly realized how lucky I was to have them. Some people don't have the same opportunities that I'm fortunate to have.
Thank you. What's your first name?
Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. So that was really, he's being very honest here too. He's saying, look at all these things I have in my life. He's telling the admissions officers a lot about himself. Were you raising your hand to read?
I'll do this.
Yes, thank you. Tell us your first name.
I'm Oliver.
Thank you.
Every time I drive on that road, I'm reminded of the accident. The memory of it is still fresh in my mind and motivates me to drive safe. It took a near-death experience to teach me the power that I have behind the wheel. Now I find my best to drive safely and respect. The rules of the road. Because this experience was heartbreaking. However, it gave me a new outlook on life and it taught me gratitude for all I have. Walking away uninjured was the greatest gift I've ever received.
Oh, phew, we got through it. I don't know what was so funny, but okay. So what do you think of this essay? I can tell what Oliver thinks. What does everybody else think? Any insight into this essay? Does it help? Does it help seeing an example of a successful essay? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You said no. It's not helping?
My phone fell on the ground.
so it's just kind of shaping it up.
Your phone is on. Oh, okay. Oh. It wasn't about the essay. What do you think?
Yeah.
It
was pretty helpful because like it was a pretty good essay. It was really like, descriptive and stuff. So yeah.
Thank you. It also shows you the organization of the essay. If you can follow that to some degree, it will help you get the essay written and not have to do heavy editing because you stop at your maximum word count. It's going over is not necessarily a better way to do it, unless it works for you. Does anybody have any other questions? Because we're about to wrap up.
When we're like starting to write the essay, do you suggest like doing it in one go or sort of doing it in chunks?
That is a very good question. The question is, when you start writing, should you write it all at once in one sitting or do it in chunks? It really depends on how much time you give yourself to write it. My advice is take a weekend, take a Saturday morning, go somewhere where it's quiet and you can close the door and give yourself as much time as you need to write the first draft. And I'm saying the first draft because you will revise it. You really do need to look at it over and over and over again because new insights will come and it will improve as you rewrite, as you edit and rewrite. So that's a very good question though. Thank you.
I noticed there's a lot of like contractions and stuff in the essay. I was wondering if it's supposed to be more formal or if you're supposed to use contractions and stuff.
I think that's a really good question, and I always wonder myself, but I actually, when I'm tutoring a student, I let them write with contractions because it's how you talk. So I think it's more natural. But that's a very, very good question. I guess there's one more question.
If you go over the word count, do they like discard your essay or do they like literally count every single word?
I think what it is, so I don't have access to the software when you're applying and putting in your essay. If it's over the 650, it just won't accept the essay. So I have a story of a few years ago, the son of some friends of mine asked me for help with his essay, and he kind of waited too long to write it. So at 9 o'clock on the deadline night, he produced this essay that was 1,200 words. And we had to get it down, so we were working on Google Docs, his mother, his father, me, and him, all four of us. And we were editing unfortunately, the heart out of the essay. He wrote a really nice essay, but it was just too long, and there was no way he was going to get, at deadline, it wasn't going to be accepted, so he wasn't going to get his application in. So that's one thing I always say to I will say to all of you, and I will say it over and over again, don't wait till the last minute. Write your essay now, and give yourself enough time to perfect it. Are there any last questions before we end?
Are there certain ideas or concepts that would be preferable to elaborate on?
To a what?
To elaborate on.
Are there certain concepts that would be preferable to elaborate?
Themes.
Yeah. The New York Times always publishes the best essays for college admissions. If you can find that, or if you email me, I'll send you the link. I'm going to tell you that there is no one concept, no better concept than another. Honestly, I could write an essay about brushing my teeth in the morning, and I could make you want to read it. It is not really about the topic. It is about what you say and what you, how you philosophize within that essay.
I'm gonna be a junior next year.
would it be too early for me to start writing the essay now, or like should I just wait next year?
Yes, it's too early. That's
Okay.
why this is really only for rising seniors.
All right.
It is too early to start writing if you're not going to go into senior year. Your life in the next year, so much will happen. There'll be so many things. It won't reflect who you are when you're applying to college. And that's why I always say, you know, come as a rising senior. So come back next year.
Okay.
Okay, last chance before I shut this down. All right, well, thank you all for coming. Email me if you want anything.